Hello and welcome to the south of France, to Le Castellet and the circuit of Paul Ricard, one of the world's classic motor racing circuits and home to the latest championship to join the TCR family, TCR Europe. TCR Europe, of course, has run in the past. It's had a number of incarnations in the last couple of years, most recently a one-off shootout at Adria in Italy last year, but this is a full 7-event championship starting here in Paul Ricard and ending in October in Barcelona. Originally 26 cars entered. We lost a Peugeot, Julien Brichet not taking delivery of the car in time to compete here on his home event, and so we're down to 25 cars, and you'll see a few familiar names, a few perhaps not so familiar names in the 25. There you see Stefano Camini with the Swiss flag, car 42, the Subaru WRX STI of the two-time TCR International Series champion. And we'll talk, I suspect, about Stefano in a few moments' time, not having the best of starts to TCR Europe, unlike this man, Dusan Borkovic, the tallest man in touring car racing. Car 62, the familiar start number, and it's Dusan Borkovic's first appearance in the Hyundai i30N TCR with target competition, and what a debut. Dusan actually broke his right leg 2 months ago, neglected to tell anybody, surprisingly enough, hasn't driven a race car since Dubai in the middle of November, so something like 7 months away from racing, and puts it on pole position alongside this man who was quickest in both free practice sessions yesterday in the PCR Sport Cupra TCR, Mikel Azcona of Spain. One of the names perhaps you won't have heard of. Azcona in single mate series in the Supercopa, the Leons, and also in the Audi TT Cup, where he finished second, but quickest in both free practice and second quickest in qualifying this morning. Danny Nage in the 999 car, another of the Hyundais. Danny Nage from Hungary in the first of the Mira cars. Second row of the grid, he'll be behind Dusan Borkovic. And alongside Danny Nage, Stian Paulsen in the 34 Cupra. This is very much a family-run effort. If you've been following Stian on social media and following his brilliant videos showing the behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on to preparing and running the cars, he has to be one of the fans' favorites, telling me how frustrating it was that actually the racing bit is about the easiest. It's getting the car sorted, getting everything ready, and a very late delivery of parts causing a few anxious moments. Josh Files on course to win that shootout. I mentioned the TCR Europe shootout in Adria last year. Won the first race, had a disastrous second race in which he could only finish 7th. But Josh Files, double TCR Germany champion, won TCR Middle East, and was 5th in qualifying yesterday. He'll start alongside Irishman Rhys Barr in another of the target competition, Hyundai i30N TCRs. Rhys from County Donegal in the Republic of Ireland. And then on row 4 of the grid, Jean-Carl Venet, 2017 TCR International Series champion. JK waving for the cameras, and already won one of the rounds of WTCR this year, but looking for a decent result here in Paul Ricard. So let's go through the grid for you then. Dusan Borkovic on pole, alongside Mikel Azcona, Danny Nage and Stian Paulsen row 2, Josh Files, Rhys Barr on row 3, Jean-Carl Venet, Chris Ricard from Switzerland row 4, then it's Francisco Mora and Jens Reno Moller, Igor Stefanovski, Nicola Baldan, Loris Cenchetti, Maxime Potti, Danny Cruz and Francisco Abreu. Then it's Attila Taschi, a subdued Attila Taschi. He's had flu over the last couple of days. He'll start alongside Mark Yadlovsky, Cedric Piro alongside Giovanni Altoe, Giacomo's brother, Andrea Larini and Enrico Batera, Gustavo Mura and Viktor Davidovsky. And right at the back, 25th and last on the grid, a very unfamiliar position for Stefano Camini. A very lean, fit-looking Stefano Camini. I saw him in the paddock this morning and said, "What's the secret?" He said he's lost something like 14 kilos, and he said It's all down to stress. The entry coming together very last minute. The team Race Republic is a new team to me. I think a team put together in the last few weeks, maybe the last month or so, to run Stefano in this year's TCR Europe. The car, though, we know it's the Subaru WRX STI, and Stefano has had a hand in the development, but still problems with the car. Fuel pump yesterday causing problems in the second free practice, and the car still not to his liking. He was not at all happy when he got out of the car this morning when he failed to get through to Q2. Now, whether anything can be done about the car or whether it's back to the workshop and have a rethink after the French round of TCR Europe, I don't know. So, moments away then from the green flag lap. The Paul Ricard circuit, built at the end of the 60s, opened in 1970, hosted the French Grand Prix a total of 14 times, and the French Formula One Grand Prix returns to Paul Ricard in about a month's time for the first time since 1990. 5.8 kilometer circuit. If you look at the circuit's website, there are something like 167 different configurations depending on what you want to do here. But the circuit's been used for testing over the last 20 years or so. Pretty much everything has competed here over the years since it's been open. WEC, WTCC. As Dusan Borkovic leads the cars away on this 5.8 kilometer green flag lap. So into the left-hander at turn 1. There's then a sequence of corners at the western end of the circuit before spitting the cars out onto the 1.8 kilometer Mistral Straight. And you'll see there the striking blue and red stripes, patterns on the runoff areas. I don't think you'll find any gravel at all here at Paul Ricard, if I'm not mistaken. The blue areas, the blue zones, are reasonably high grip. The red zones, much higher grip, but they will cause degradation to the tires if you go across them. I know that the marshals, the race director, Tony Whitaker, will be looking very closely at track limits here. A number of cars were penalised this morning in qualifying for infringing track limits. Jean-Carl Venet had a reprimand yesterday for continually breaching track limits. There is Venet in the centre of your screen. It was a suspended grid penalty that he had, but he received a telling off from the stewards last night. And the penalty now having been lifted, it was suspended until the end of Q2. Now, halfway down the Mistral Straight, you've got this chicane, which slows the cars down before they then take the second half of the straight and into the technical section at the eastern end of the circuit before they turn back onto the start-finish straight at the end of the lap. Race duration, 23 minutes plus 1 lap, which seems a little odd. But wherever the leader is after the clock reaches 0, the next time they cross the finish line will be the start of the final lap, if that makes sense. So it doesn't matter if they're coming out of the final turn or whether they've only just crossed the finish line. It'll be the lap after the clock hits 0 plus 1. That should all become obvious as we get into it, as Stefano Comini trails around at the back of the field to put the Subaru onto the back of the grid. So 25 entries, 16 countries represented here in the first round of TCR Europe 2018. And 7 car brands. 4 Audis, 5 Cupras, 5 Hondas, 8 Hyundais. Supposedly 2 Peugeots, but only 1 made it. one Subaru and one Volkswagen. Igor Stefanovski there you see in the number 7 car, one of 2 drivers from the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. Maxime Potti, Danny Cruz, that's the scene inside Target Competition. The 2 Gumara twins who run the team together with their dad, watching their man Dusan Borkovic roll up to take his position at the head of the grid for this first TCR Europe race of 2018. And Dusan, considering the fact that he's not driven the car, did exactly what he had to do this morning. That's Stefano Camini's dad on the right of your screen. Always supports his son wherever we are in the world. The final cars line up on the grid. Tension mounts, particularly, I would have thought, at Target Competition. 3 cars from them on the grid. There is Camini on the left of your screen. So, the marshal is gesturing. Now, do we have a problem? Is somebody out of position? No, indeed. The green flag waves. We are moments away from starting the 2018 TCR Europe Series. The lights go on. They go off. We are racing. Dusan Borkovic on the right of your screen makes that perfect start, does exactly what he had to do. Danny Nagy moves across. On Athkonar, it's... Oh, and there's contact already. One of the Hyundai spinning across the track. It's one of the Mira cars, I think. As Borkovic, there is Paulsen in the yellow car, holding off Files. Oh, and another contact, I think, involving one of the Hondas. Rejoins, and that's Tashi, I think. Yes, that's Attila Tashi in the number 9 Honda, the Hell Energy racing car. So somebody's assisted him off at some point. Camini already up from 25th to 16th, which is exactly what he wanted. Down then to the chicane on the Mistral Straight. Borkovic from Nagy, from Athkonar, from Paulsen, from Files, Vernet, Riespar, Stefanovski, Ricard, and Tashi rounding off the top 10. That's the look up the Mistral Straight. There is Tashi. Jens Rolo Muller, I think, behind. There went Camini through. That's one of the Peugeots seriously sideways on the blue runoff area, the blue zone. And that's Francisco Abreu in the 23 Sports and U Peugeot 308. Loris Cenchetti from Luxembourg in the 14 Hyundai. So then at the end of the first lap, Dusan Borkovic leads from Danny Nagy. Hyundai first, Hyundai second, Cupra third, Cupra fourth. It's Athkonar, from Paulsen. Then it's Josh Files, Jean-Carl Vernet, Riespar, Igor Stefanovski, Chris Ricard, and then Tashi. And that's the battle for 10th place between Tashi and Jens Rolo Muller in the 2 Hondas. And Nicola Baldan just behind the pair in another of the Hondas and the Hyundais. Big cut. And again, Tashi now on the red zone, the very abrasive runoff area. Now, we didn't see, I don't think, what happened there. as Francisco Mora comes in. Do we have a replay of the incident involving Tashi? Was there contact, or did he just outbrake himself? Can't think that's the case, because they would have been going into the complex at the western end of the circuit at that point. There is Comini, up to 14th now. Giovanni Altoe, no Giacomo this year, after being a regular in the TCR International Series last year. Giacomo Altoe, I think, is doing a program in Lamborghinis this year. Certainly no sign of an entry in any of the TCR series from him so far that I'm aware of. Stian Paulsen then. Then we saw Josh Files. There is Jean-Carl Venet. Behind Venet is Rhys Barr. And Chen Chetty comes in with a front left puncture. There is Rhys Barr, the young Irishman. Stefanovski behind. Ricard in the target car. So at the moment, all three of the target competition Hyundais are in the top 9. Across the line then, for the second time, Dusan Borkovic, Danny Naj, Mikael Azcona, Stian Paulsen, Josh File still 5th, Jean-Carl Venet 6th, Rhys Barr is 7th, ahead of Stefanovski and the man you just saw there, Chris Ricard, and Jens Renaud Moller now 10th. Tashi having dropped all the way down to 24th at the moment. As we take a look back at the start, and that was Tashi there, the back of the screen, just taking an alternative line down the outside, and then there was contact involving Francisco Mora. There he is spinning out of the event in the back of your screen, and body damage forcing him to come in through the complex then at the eastern end. And Tashi, I think that was, taking to the runoff area. That's Francisco Abreu. And there, the only DSG car, the Audi RS3 LMS from Pit Lane Competizione of Giovanni Altoe. Back with the leaders then. We're on lap 3. Abreu making up 2 places, up to 14th. Comini now back to 15th, and that's Tashi, I think. Yes, it is, car 9. Tashi running slowly back to the pits. Very sensibly getting way off the track and on the runoff area. So nothing from race 1 in TCR Europe for Attila Tashi. So Venet then, Barr, Stefanovski, Ricard. That's the battle for 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. Jens Renaud Muller still running 10th at the moment ahead of Nicola Baldan. Maxim Potti in 12th. What's this? Incident involving Comini. That's, I suspect, what dropped him from 14th. He's now dropped back to 17th after starting 25th, remember. Down the Mistral then. On lap 4, Dusan Borkovic, 0.4 of a second lead now over Danny Naj. Slight lock-up from the brakes as they just flick into the left-hander through the chicane. And indeed, in comes Attila Tashi, front puncture. And Comini turned in. on top of Cedric Pirot in the 13 car. And Mark Jedlowski taking to the outside to avoid the pair. Oh, Stefanovski getting hit by Chris Richard. Positions don't change though. Stefanovski still 8th, Richard 9th. Josh Files making a move on Stian Paulsen. Not quite close enough. Remember, there was a balance of performance revision just before this race weekend. Several TCR races taking place this weekend. Scandinavia, Russia, and here the TCR Europe events in Le Castellet at Paul Ricard. And a revision of the balance of performance figures just before the weekend. The headline really was a reduction in ride height for all but the Honda and the Hyundai, but also the DSG cars, the Volkswagen, the Seat, and the Audi also getting a further ride height reduction, and also a weight as Chris Richard goes past Stefanovski, so 8th place changes hands. So the 94 car, Chris Richard in the target competition, Hyundai i30N, bided his time, and so Igor Stefanovski in the Stefanovski Racing Team Hyundai comes away from that in 9th place. There's then a gap, 4.5 seconds or so back to Jens Renaud Moller, who's now coming under pressure from Nicola Baldan, as Richard now takes, in fact it's Rhys Barr taking a look up alongside Jean-Carl Venet. So Rhys Barr now running ahead of his teammate, and Venet having to move defensively across. This is the scrap for 6th then, as Venet runs very wide across the blue zone. And this is the moment. Chris Richard picks his moment up the inside of Stefanovski. Thank you very much. That's 8th position. But what happened just as we went to the replay? Now this was Rhys Barr getting away with that, I think. And it was Josh Files ahead. But it was Venet who ran very wide. And indeed, talking of running wide, that is Stian Paulsen running right across into the blue zone. And the pressure from Josh Files has paid off. So it's now Files up into 4th place. Borkovic still leads from Nage, from Athconar, but now it's Josh Files in 4th. Jean-Carl Venet has moves up into 5th. There is Paulsen now on the right of your screen defending from Chris Richard. And Richard has also got past Rhys Barr. So the two teammates having swapped positions. Body damage on Rhys Barr's car, the number 8 Hyundai. So we're around halfway through this race. 23 minutes plus 1 lap is the race distance, as we're looking at Stian Paulsen defending now from Chris Richard. Cupra from Hyundai. That's Danny Cruz in the pits. And this potentially is, I was going to say, that's where the body damage occurred on Rhys Barr's car, but no, indeed, that's where Chris Richard made the move, going down the start-finish straight. So Venet then. From Paulsen, from Richard, from Barr, from Stefanovski. And the Speedy Motorsport Audi, Gustavo Moura, another of the 3 Portuguese drivers in the event, in the pits. There is Josh Files, there's Jean-Carl Venet, Stian Paulsen and Chris Richard right behind. And again, Paulsen runs wide, as does Venet. Venet takes to the blue. And Chris Richard says, thank you very much. 2 positions in 1 move. So past Paulsen, past Venet. And indeed, Rhys Barr is also up the inside. Rhys Barr, the young Irish driver, goes past the reigning TCR International Series champion, Jean-Carl Venet in the Audi. So a complete change of positions 5, 6, 7 and 8. So it's now Chris Richard ahead of Stian Paulsen, who's also coming under pressure from Rhys Barr, from Jean-Carl Venet, then it's Stefanovski, and it's Jens Renaud Muller. There he is in 10th place. Let's just run back again. I was looking at Paulsen running wide, and then look at Jean-Carl Venet seriously off onto the blue zone as Chris Richard dives up the inside, says, thank you very much, I'll take both those positions. Richard now off in pursuit of Josh Files in the Honda. The pair rivals in TCR Germany, which for the last 2 years has been decided in Josh Files' favour. So Chris Richard knows all about battling with Josh Files. Dusan Borkovic hasn't put a wheel wrong this race. I've probably jinxed it now. Little puff of blue smoke as he breaks for the chicane. So there is Dusan Borkovic. Still the gap around 0.4 of a second over Danny Nagy. Mikael Athkonar, there he is in the background in the Cupra in 3rd place. About 2 seconds or so behind that battle. There in the distance, Josh Files, Chris Richard, then it's Stian Paulsen, then Rhys Barr. And indeed, Stefanovski has got past Venet as well, so 8th place has changed hands. So Venet, who was complaining about the balance of performance before the race, I think will have even more complaining to do afterwards. He feels that the Audi is being handicapped by the balance of performance. As our race leader comes through the complex towards the start-finish straight at the end of lap 6. Files and Richard, Paulsen and Barr, then Stefanovski, then Venet. Then there's a 3-second gap or so back to Muller, who's now just ahead of Nicola Baldan in 11th, Maxime Potti in 12th. Kamini, we've not mentioned for a while, as Chris Richard just takes a look up the inside of Josh Files going into turn 1, thinks better of it. Files keeps 4th place. As I was just about to say, we hadn't mentioned Stefano Kamini for a while. He's languishing back in 18th place. What, if anything, can be done ahead of race 2 tomorrow, which again will see Stefano Kamini start from the back of the grid. Files and Richard then, Honda versus Hyundai. Turning through the right-hander onto the Mistral straight. Now, at the top of your screens, who's got the advantage going down the straight? Richard moves to the inside. Just squirrels slightly under braking. Josh Files holds the position once again. This is a battle worth watching. It's the scrap for 4th place. Josh Files currently in 4th. Chris Richard from Switzerland currently in 5th. And then behind them, it's a slight gap to Stian Paulsen in the Cupra, Rhys Barr in the Hyundai, and Stefanovski. Again, a little lock-up, and that's the problem area for Stian Paulsen, where it always seems to go wrong for him. Just locks up slightly under braking, and Rhys Barr picks his moment. So, 6th place now changes hands. It's Rhys Barr ahead of Stian Paulsen. Behind Paulsen, it's Stefanovski in another of the Hyundais. Still, the battle goes on between Richard and Files. Rhys Barr, having picked his moment to get past Stian Paulsen. Rhys Barr, just 17 years of age, And this again, you see, this is where Poulsen just locks up, slides slightly wide, and Rhys Barr picks his moment and goes through. So 6th place changes hands. This is the scrap. So now Stefanovski is right up behind Poulsen. And I suspect it's at this moment that I should tell you that I spoke to Stian just before the race as I was walking down towards the commentary box. And Stian said, I'm going to try something brave. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm either going to win the race or I'll finish off at the bottom of the top 10. I think we now know what the result has been of whatever that brave move was. It's a setup change, but what he's done, I don't know. And whether he'll try again tomorrow for race 2, I don't know. So, Ricard alongside Josh Files. No, not quite. Files has the line for the left-hander. And no, indeed, Ricard is alongside. He just noses ahead of the Honda. Files keeps it in and keeps the position, but Ricard had just nosed ahead briefly there. So this scrap will go to the wire. 3.5 minutes plus 1 lap left to decide 4th place. Files defending. Ricard moves across. It's a right-hander at the end of the Mistral, remember. Good racecraft, good defending from Josh Files. Forces Ricard out onto the rumble strip at the edge of the track. Through the complex. No other changes. This time Stian Poulsen holds on to 7th place as Ricard again takes a look at the inside of Files. Isn't quite close enough though. So, on to the start-finish straight. Borkovic has just started lap 9. And this is Comini scrapping with Giovanni Altoe in the Audi and just getting the gap that he needed. So, Altoe having, I think, just given up 18th position to Comini. Igor Stefanovski, run by the family team. What can he do in the last few minutes of this race, the last couple of laps? Rhys Barr now having closed up on his teammate Chris Ricard. Was there a little tap between the pair? I'm not sure if there was. Ricard still scrapping with Josh Files. So Files holding not 1 but 2 Hyundais at bay now. There goes Borkovic, Naj, Azcona. There's Josh Files, there's Chris Richard. Again moving to the right, but Files has the line. Quite a few drivers missing their braking point during free practice yesterday. But we had a dry free practice 1, and then the heavens opened between FP1 and FP2. So a drag down the Mistral straight again. Files has just got his nose in front again, or has he? Chris Ricard is alongside. Files turns in, though, as Rhys Barr takes a look up the inside of his teammate. Poulsen's there behind too, as is Stefanovski, and Jean Calvinet staying with that pack. I think we'll get 2 more laps looking at where the leaders are. Oh, and does Files run wide? Files seemed to have a problem, but no, I think it was just an optical illusion, as it looked as though Josh Files had a problem. And there was a tap. There was just the slightest of contact between the pair, between Ricard and Files, but Files holds the position. Borkovic then on lap 10, so he'll do a complete lap because the clock hits 0 now, so it'll be this lap plus 1 more. And that information will be radioed through to the drivers. So they have 2 more laps to compete of this 5.8 kilometre circuit at Paul Ricard. Let's just look at this again. Chris Ricard just makes contact with the rear left of Josh Files' car. No option from Files but to cut the corner. No position changes though. So Files still 4th ahead of Ricard in 5th and Rhys Barr in 6th. But no, indeed, there is 94, which is Chris Ricard. Now, what happened there? There is Ricard. And contact from his teammate. Rhys Barr, I suspect, went for a gap that wasn't there. And Ricard turned into him, spinning Ricard out. And there'll be words, I dare say, already being said over the radio. And a cosy chat in the target competition awning when the cars get back to Parc Fermé. So, the battle settled in not the way we expected, because Rhys Barr has now dropped back behind Stian Paulsen. So, Stefanovski still scrapping with Venet. Oh, almost contact between the pair, and yet again, Stian Paulsen runs slightly wide, allowing Rhys Barr to get up the inside. He knows that's where the problem area is for the Cupra. Barr gets his nose ahead, but Paulsen has the line. There is Venet behind the pair. Venet alongside now the Hyundai. Venet just squeezes Rhys Barr out. Venet takes the position. So Venet up into 6th then. Paulsen 5th. Files still 4th ahead of that scrap, but Rhys Barr, young Rhys Barr isn't letting Venet get away with it. And contact between Venet and Paulsen. Both of them take to the blue zone. And Venet recovers slightly better, but Venet now alongside Stefanovski coming down the start-finish straight. There is the Irish flag on the roof of Rhys Barr's car. He turns in just ahead of Jean-Carl Venet, then Stefanovski. Then it's Stian Paulsen in the Cupra. Then Jens Renault Muller has closed the gap. Let's watch that again. Contact then between Venet and Stian Paulsen. Let's watch it from the other angle, and Paulsen turns in to find Venet in the way. And there's an incident involving Ricard and Files under investigation on my screen. So Files, the pressure off now. There's Rhys Barr, Venet, Stefanovski, then Paulsen, then Muller, who is currently 9th, ahead of Baldan in 10th. Body damage to Paulsen's car. You have to feel for him, because that's going to have to be patched up by the team, which consists mainly of Stian and his friends, running TCR Europe on a budget this year. So Barr, Jean-Carl Venet, Stefanovski, Paulsen, Muller and Baldan at the lower end of the top 10. But coming through the complex for the final time, we should be looking at the start-finish straight any moment to see our race winner take the checkered flag. Dusan Borkovic takes the victory. Andriana, his wife, social media guru and longtime supporter. High fives everywhere for Mira for finishing 2nd with Dani Nage. We hardly spoke about Mikel Azcona. He was a lonely 3rd, but happy nonetheless. There is Andriana. And Dusan Borkovic, 7 months away from a racing car, 2 months completely out of action with a broken leg. Hasn't driven that car until yesterday. Qualifies on pole, and a lights to flag victory for one of the nicest guys in touring car racing. The smiles say it all. Congratulations to Dusan Borkovic, and some great fights further back in the top 10. Josh Files, I suspect, relieved to have the pressure of lap after lap from Chris Richard. Rhys Barr finishing 5th, but will have words, I suspect, from his colleague waiting for him. Jean Calvinet finishes 6th. Then it's Igor Stefanovski in the Hyundai 7th, Stian Paulsen 8th, Jens Renaud Muller 9th, and Nicola Baldan in the 16 car, the Pit Lane Competizione Hyundai, rounding off the top 10. Our race winner from the first round of TCR Europe 2018, Dusan Borkovic. And I suspect a very popular winner in Serbia. A very popular winner in pit lane. Let's get confirmation then of the top 10 for you here at Paul Ricard. Dusan Borkovic takes the victory from Danny Nagy. Mikel Azcona in 3rd, Josh Files 4th, Rhys Barr 5th, Jean Calvinet 6th, Igor Stefanovski 7th, Stian Paulsen 8th, Jens Renaud Muller 9th, and Nicola Baldan in 10th place. And then behind the top 10, Maxime Potti in 11th. Chris Richard recovers to finish in 12th. Abreu, Pirot, Jedlotsky, Davidovsky, Bitera, Altoe, Larini. There is Comini, look, at the bottom end of the top 20. Mora finishes 2 laps down, and then the DNFs for you. Mura, Tashi, Danny Cruz, and Cenchetti that we saw having problems right at the early part of the race. Only 1 lap completed by the Hyundai of Loris Cenchetti from Luxembourg. I spoke to Dusan yesterday and said, so what's the story behind this broken leg? He didn't seem that happy to tell me, but I eventually got it out of him today that it was a snowmobile that he was driving somewhere during the winter, and it overturned on top of him. So a 9-point lead for Dusan Borkovic after this opening race of TCR Europe 2018. Danny Nagy in 2nd place, and Mikel Azcona in 3rd. So Hyundai's 1 and 2, then a Cupra. Who knows what will happen tomorrow? Race 2 takes place here at Paul Ricard, starting at 3:50 local time tomorrow, Central European time. So please join us for that wherever you are in the world. And I'm not sure, with the clock ticking down, whether we're going to have enough time to talk to our race winner, Dusan Borkovic. You can see the smile and the waving of hands inside the car. And I think we on this live stream have run out of time to talk to Dusan. We'll get a clip for you for social media. But our race winner from round 1 of TCR Europe 2018 is Dusan Borkovic.
You know, girl, when I'm with you, I always feel so good. I find a home in you. I find a motor and